Hello, and welcome to the Backpacking Podcast, brought to you by Outdoor Vitals, makers of performance first ultralight gear. And speaking of Outdoor Vitals, real quick, I wanted to tell you I got an email saying that they got a new color in the Skyline joggers. So something cool to check out on their website, outdoorvitals.com. The colors are goblin blue, shell gray, and coffee. Yep, the coffee is brown. Also, if you're watching live on YouTube, leave us a comment, tell us hello, say how's it going, and be aware that they're having a flash sale on Outdoor Vitals website October 15th and 16th. So you could spend some money today if you wanted to and save up to $99 off select items. So check out outdoorvitals.com and see what you like on there. Also, check out their Mountain Pursuit line. Now, you might have noticed that at the moment, it's just me on here. We've done a couple of weeks of unique shows. I did a show with Jonathan, who is Woodall Trails, and John did a show with Brad, aka Crow, or As the Crow Flies Hiking. And John said he had to squeeze in a Southerner on there. He was missing the accent. So last week, if you missed that funny show, you can go check it out. And then you're like, well, here we are today, and Jeremiah is kind of steering the ship. He's conning the boat. What's going on? Well, John has been under the weather. He is behind the scenes. He is with us today. So you may or may not hear his voice, but he's doing a fantastic job so far producing the show behind the scenes. And I'm going to be kind of taking the lead here and talking with a lovely guest today. I'm excited to introduce here in just a moment, but let's see what's going on in the chat. We got David Cooper here. Looks like we have the better looking half of the team here today. Well, I don't know if John will like that. Boots on the Trail says Jeremiah looks like Teen Wolf became a middle-aged wolf. Oh my gosh. Ginger Jesus, Teen Wolf. I had to do a part in the middle of my hair or something so I don't look like Teen Wolf. If you're not watching, you can check us out on YouTube or Spotify to see the video version. Stone Ape Adventures, we missed you last weekend at the meetup. He says hello. And how do you get your hair that golden glow? Oh, I don't know. God just made me this way. What can I say? Last weekend, if you missed it, you missed an awesome time. Some people got out there Thursday. I got out there Friday and brought my wife, Bridget, but we went up to Red River Gorge and met on top of Indian Staircase. And I got to tell you, I was a little bit concerned with parking because a lot of those trailheads, if you're doing a YouTube meetup, you're expecting a number of people, and we had 25 to 30 over the weekend and had a fantastic time. And everything turned out great. The visitor center helped us out, let us double stack cars in camper spots. And I met some fantastic people from all over the place. We had people driving 8+ hours just to come in and hang out. And me and Mr. Backpacking with Jason, sir, we kind of co-led the groups, I guess you would say. It's good to see Joey. I see you on here. BRONWYN, I see you on here. It's good to see you all. Got to meet Chicken Little Trex, CLT, I called him, and had a great time with him. With his glasses on, he was Chicken Little Trex. Without him, just normal guy. So it was good to meet you. I don't want to miss anybody, but there was a ton of different people. Like I said, there 25 to 30 awesome, lovely people. So had a great time with you all. We went on a little hike up and down the staircase. So if you're from around that area, let's just put it this way. My wife has had a panic attack literally every single time that we went up Indian Staircase, and we were camping on top Indian Staircase. And first of all, let me apologize because, oh yeah, by the way, JK couldn't be there, and you're going to have to wait until next week. We got a great guest next week as well, but we'll also hear from JK and how he wasn't able to make the meetup. So more on that later, but we did miss him dearly. Don't want to miss that. But like I was saying, on the staircase, my wife's having these panic attacks anytime that I've taken her up them. So I actually linked on our show, and I put out a little 3-minute video on my YouTube channel saying, hey, we're going to be here if you want to come hang out. And I put on there an easy, medium, people called it, and the hard route. And the hard route was the one my wife has a panic attack on. The medium route was the bypass. And by every person that took the bypass, I was told this should have been called an alternate route. This should not have been called a bypass because it was not a bypass.
Woo, buddy.
In fact, we had to drop pack and kind of hand our packs one to another. Taylor, who was another lovely person that we got to meet, he hiked with my wife and I on the way in. We happened to bump into each other whenever we got there, and he helped us pass gallons of water that we were carrying up because we were almost dry camping basically, and our backpacks, and kind of done some rock scrambles. Yeah, CLT says the bypass, more like the alternate. So I should have told people, if you really want the easiest way, take the long way, the 2 mile hike. And it is a little bit longer. You're adding 3/4 of a mile, but it's not treacherous, and you get to see a really cool arch on the way. But luckily, most people got to see all that because Saturday we had a great hike, and we also snuck down to the gas station and might have got some Little Caesars pizza and wings and some beverages. So it all turned out great. We headed out Sunday morning, and shout out to Jason E. Um, he took some great drone footage, but he also challenged me to a basketball game. And I got to say, I represented the Bluegrass just fine that day. He's also a Kentuckian, but he's kind of up in the Cincinnati area. So we call it borderline, but I might have won that game. We had a good time, but that goes to show you, if you're out on trail and there's going to be a basketball court around like it is at Miguel's, the pizza place nearby there, if everybody's meeting up, we're going to have an audience and we're going to have a great time playing basketball. You got to be ready. You got to be ready to lace those up because we are getting dubs all day here. Go Cats, by the way. All right. I think that's enough rambling for me. I guess it's about high time that we bring in our guest here, the actual reason that we're having this episode today. And if you would, I would love you to welcome to the show BRONWYN PREECE, also known as the Backcountry Poet. And we're going to unpack a little bit about her and hear some of the amazing, funny, and awesome stories that she has to tell on today's show. So, everybody, welcome to the show, B or Bron.
Both
How's it
work.
going?
Yes, it's going great. Thank you. I have to say, just listening to you introduce or talk about the weekend meetup, the image of the double stacked cars that you mentioned, what came to mind was cars driving up on top of each other to like literally double stack. I'm sitting here laughing, going like the image, like you were creating double decker buses or something like that. But then, yeah. So
I wish we
thank you
could
for
have.
that. That just kind of made me go, "What? What were you doing?"
Well, I was looking at the campers nearby. There was actually an Airstream parked next door to us, and I didn't know Airstreams made RVs, but this is one that you drive around. You think Airstream, you think like the Silver Bullet, you're pulling it behind your truck. They were driving this thing around, and it was an older couple, and I don't know what was going through their mind. They're seeing all these hikers come in and literally just invade the whole parking lot of the camping area, and just they had to be thinking, how are they going to get all these cars out of here? Like, what if somebody has to leave that's getting blocked in? Because we were parking everywhere. But yeah, we had a good time. It would have been quite the drive
Sounds like
for
it.
you because let's see, are you in Alberta or are you in British
I'm in,
Columbia?
I'm, I'm in British Columbia. Yeah, so I am in Whistler, British Columbia. So yeah, I'm a few miles north of you. I was just thinking when you said, last week you had a southerner on the show. Well, now you've got a northerner.
Yeah, we got the opposite side of the continent. Well, we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
There's a lot of stuff I'm wanting to talk to you about today, but let's just get a general overview. So I'll list off a couple of things to have a broad stroke of who we're talking to, and then let's get into some specifics. So
Sounds
looking
great.
at so everybody, by the way, can go follow you on Instagram. Can you shout out your Instagram real quick in case they want to check that out?
Poetic hiker, all one go. So
Poetic
poetic.
Hikers.
Yep, I could spell it out. Poetic, poetic, and then hiker. We all know how to spell.
Well, I was looking at your Instagram, and these are your words, okay? This is not me. This is what you sent me. Yeah, and this is a
Okay.
quote.
I'm the-
Older
Okay.
female solo backpacker. Those are your words.
Yes.
I'm not calling you older.
No,
I may
that's
call
good.
you're a seasoned backpacker. So
Sure. We'll go for that.
I also have on here, you've dealt with some injuries in the past, being that you've logged so many trail miles and it kind of beats up your body. I have here that you have a knee replacement, and we've talked about some of the metal parts that are going into the body, like
That's just the first of it.
yeah, I'm sure we'll get to it, but like you have a rare genetic disorder, and that also involves metal, specifically copper. But we'll talk about that here in just a minute. And um, a broken hip on trail. So I don't know if you needed a hip replacement for that or not, but that's a tough one.
Not a, yeah, not a hip replacement, a whole rod down my femur. That was about 14 months ago. Yeah. And some big
Well,
screws, you know.
Woo, buddy.
Just to keep it, yeah, exactly. Just keep it in place, yeah. you
well,
know,
besides
I,
those things,
I'm a, don't see me in an airport. It's fun times right now. I'll tell you that much.
you're setting off every
beep,
metal
beep, beep, beep,
detector.
beep, beep, beep. Yeah, every metal detector, exactly.
Well,
anyway.
are there other important things that I missed, just broad stroke wise, before we start getting into specifics? I know the GDT, the Great Divide Trail, we're going to hit on that as well. But what other, generally speaking, would give people a good idea of who you are?
Uh, ooh, that's a tough one. But I guess the essence and of what's pertinent here with this is that I am a writer and I write on the trail, and I'm up in Whistler, British Columbia. The snow line is falling closer, coming closer and closer and closer. And so right now I'm in my mad panic hiker mode of where the forecast is supposed to change tomorrow, and I'm racing. I'm trying to beat the snow. And when the snow comes, it's a whole different thing. But this is my time where I find I suddenly become panic mode hiker. So, and
Oh,
that's been me. That's been me the last couple days.
well, I'm
Because I
glad
tell
you
you,
mentioned
snowshoes just don't
they
cut it
don't cut
for
it
me.
for you. Well, I'm going to be honest. I haven't tried the snowshoes. I did go up.
Don't, don't,
No,
don't.
it's not.
They're nicknamed misery slippers here. I almost literally threw mine off a cliff last winter. I'm like staunchly against littering of any kind, but there was that point. I was actually on a trip with my daughter, and I said that to her. I said, "You know me. I am against littering of any kind. But right now, you have my full permission to throw these snowshoes off the cliff if you'd like. Just so I don't recommend it, but come this winter, there I'll be strapping them back on at some point because that's just the nature of the beast. But yeah,
Well, I've brought them backpacking with me, but we
okay.
did whenever I only went on one trip where it was like actual deep winter. It was in April and it was in New Hampshire, but I
Oh
never had
yeah,
to unstrap them on my backpack. That's pretty far north.
yeah. No, New Hampshire's north, and April you got hit hard with winter in April. Hey, still, so I guess yeah, it was lingering. It hadn't melted
Yeah,
yet.
and not to dwell too much on my experience up there, but I will tell you, there was one winter storm. Like we made it up. We were looking over like Mount Washington area, and I believe, unless my memory's wrong, could be making up false memories here, but we got up there and we were like, should we go
They're
on?
valid.
What's that?
I said the false memories are equally as valid. Don't worry. They're sometimes the
Yeah,
greatest ones. I was so on that mountaintop. I swear.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes it embellishes the story a bit, but we were looking up there and we were like, do we go on up to the top? Everything was frozen and we had micro spikes on. And we was like, we got the equipment, we could go on up. And then we were standing up there, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and literally it's almost like sprinkling, but it's snow. And then it gets over 10 to 15, 20 minutes, it literally starts rolling in. And we was like, it don't matter if we want to go that extra 500 foot to the top or not. It ain't happening because we need to head back to camp right now. We're at like 4 or 5,000 foot. I don't remember how much, like maybe 4,200 foot. And we said, yep, let's descend immediately. Otherwise, because like literally a week or two later, somebody in that same area got caught in a storm, and then they found, like, they couldn't find them until it was too late, and that person died of hypothermia up there. And so, you know, that just teaches you, you got to respect nature, and sometimes you got to call it quits before it's too late, because I'm not super experienced in that kind of terrain.
No, and I mean, in mountainous terrain, it can take 10 minutes and you've gone from an exquisitely hot weather day to ice or snow. And yeah, it's about respect. And it's also, you know, not going, oh, we're so close. Oh, we could just do it. And, you know, it sounds like you made the wise decision of, no, we have to get out of here. And it's like you're letting go of that, whatever. Did we
Yeah,
make
the
it to the end?
ego.
Whatever. Yeah, the ego and stuff. And that's, and you know, yeah, it's a tough one, especially if
Yeah.
you're like, it sounds like you were so close, right? But it's like, you know, you're here to tell the tale, right? Which that's really so sad when those stories are, you know, tough.
Yeah, because sometimes it's outside of your control. David Cooper says, so between the snow and the rain, how many good hiking days do you get per year?
But that's so here, up here, my hiking window is short. I April, so we're near the coast. So I'm in Whistler, which just geographically speaking is a couple hours north of Vancouver, about 3, 4 hours north of Seattle. Um, uh, and so cut right on the coast and just slightly inland a bit in the coast mountains. So we still have winter conditions where I am right now into like April. But April, Mayish is when the hiking starts coming. And that's actually, I kind of get a little bit cagey at that time. It's like the bookend of what I experience right now, where I'm trying to race against the incoming snow line. At that point, you still have snow in the alpine and a lot of the trails where the valleys are clear. You're getting these beautiful spring days, but there's only so far uphill I can still go at that time. But yeah, we're looking at April, May to right about now. And then there's more options on the coast, which is not far away, but you're dealing with a lot of rain. So that slows stuff down through the winter time. I mean, I'm not scared of rain, um, but right now, yeah, it's a several month window. I wish it was longer, but that's right, basically a May to October.
Yeah, and you know, I've
And
noticed that a lot of the northerners, you know, you have to plan around the weather. Just like down south, you're going to get into the water sports. You're like, okay, well, we got the lake, we got all summer, we're going to do wakeboarding, or I'm on the ocean, I'm on the southern coast. You know, I'm going to learn how to surf or deep sea fish or whatever. Up north, I find people are like, okay, I need to know skiing because I saw on your Instagram you do a ton of skiing. Maybe I want to
no,
try
it's
out.
tons of.
Oh, not skiing.
Well, no, I do some, but I'm much more a hiker. Like I actually only
Okay.
learned how to ski when I moved to Whistler about 8 years ago. So I grew up on the coast and I never really learned how to ski very well. So I put it this way. I own skis. I actually wish it was a snowboard. I'm kind of rather than skis, but I would never call myself a skier. I own
Ah,
skis. I put them on in the wintertime. Yeah, I'm just
guarantee you.
out of respect for people who make that sport beautiful and look good. That's you know, I've got my moments. Yeah, but definitely I get out in the mountain. I'm an outdoor girl. I get out there. I get after it. But yeah, not a
Yeah, and
skier.
I see, do snowmobiling. that would probably be more up my. I tried the skiing. I stuck to the bunny slopes, and I wasn't even great at that. So
Well, there you go. Well, yeah, I have the biggest ski resort in North America, like right there at my doorstep, right out the window. So I feel super fortunate. I love it. I do get out there a lot. Um, Snowmobiling, great fun. You, I don't have one myself. It's when you have your friends who do, awesome.
Hey,
But
we got a
yeah,
great
I think
question on here for you guys if you wanna
okay.
answer it real quick. This is a great one. It's from Maddie Outdoors. He says, "How do you find the trails further out west compared to the GDT in terms of solitude and feeling out there?"
Mm. Well, I'm a remote chaser. So I'm the type of person who, if there's like more than 5 people on a trail, I kind of throw up my hands. I'm like, it's over, it's overrun. Like, so, and even the GDT, parts of the GDT, um, I went for days without seeing people. I think the longest stretch was like 4 days. But then when you get into some of the national park areas, again, you're into more populated. Um, Again, it's where you choose to go, right? You can find remote and you can find busy. I'm surrounded here by the extraordinary Garibaldi Park. It can be incredibly busy, like in the summer, but there's a reason for that, right? It's stunningly, stunningly beautiful. So it's also a matter of timing, you know, when you go. I'll do very early morning things. I'll chase sunrises and stuff, and I can appreciate why things are busy. I'll tend to do something on a weekday if I can, as opposed to a weekend. So again, the GDT is not on its own. It's not completely remote the whole time. It has some very remote sections out here. You know, you just have to sometimes hop a little further. And I'm this person who tries to find that way to hop a little further or around to negotiate. Um, yeah. Does that answer that question? It was
yeah,
it's
I
a
think
hard
that's
one to answer, right? Because it's a large geographical area as well, too. So
yeah. Like speaking of the GDT. Oh, by the way, David Cooper
there there was a
says,
response that
"Amen. That is exactly why I don't go to the national parks. They're so close to me. I totally get it. Sometimes those are a little bit overloved, to a little bit too much love. So, and speaking of the GDT, just
yes.
a few fun facts about it, just so we can give context to the people who are unfamiliar. Um, the Continental Divide is it runs between Alberta and British Columbia. 1,100 kilometers start to finish, or about 700 miles. I think you've done over 850 miles of it, which I want to tell you here in just a second about. Starting
About
point.
kilometers.
Oh, sorry, I
I did.
misspoke.
Yeah.
850 kilometers. Yeah.
Yeah. Or about
Um,
900.
and
Yeah.
then Waterton Lakes National Park to, I'm going to butcher this, Kakwa Lake. Is that how you say that?
You did that. That is exactly how you say it. Yes. So the
And
the
then there's a
the GDT, like the Great Divide Trail, that's the acronym. It ends at the border, or or it starts at the border where the CDT, so where the Continental Divide Trail ends. So it's a continuation of the Continental Divide. We tend to call it the Great Divide on the Canadian side, but it is still the mountains dividing the waterways. And yeah, so
Gotcha.
they meet at the border.
I also put on here that there's a lot of unmarked sections or minimally maintained sections. So online it says you really need to make it essential to have GPS and maps. And the best time to hike it
Oh
is
yeah.
somewhere between July and September.
Yes.
Is what
Yes.
that's just what I read online. And John just showed a picture of
One
it.
100. Yeah, 100% correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about your experience on the Great Divide Trail. So you're I have on here that you broke your hip last year. Was that
Yeah.
during a through hike attempt of the GDT?
Yeah. So my through hike attempt of the GDT started 2 years ago.
Okay, tell me about it.
And and I had every intention of going straight through. So originally, but my plan was to do from Waterton to Jasper, the Jasper town site, it all solo. So that is about 900 kilometers, and we'll just get bilingual here for a moment. About 500 miles roughly solo, and then the last 100 plus um, miles, 250 kilometers, I was going to be joined with a friend of mine, just because there's a couple hugely formidable water crossings that I did not want to take on alone. I am, yeah, I'm not the largest, most bulkiest person or the most, vertically
Yeah, you
endowed.
look good.
So a big water yeah, they scare me senseless. So that was my plan. So I started out 2 years ago with every intention to do the whole thing, do my 500 miles solo, get joined by my friend. And my body had other ideas. So a couple 100 miles in, first time in my life, I started experiencing tendon issues in my feet. I've never had tendonitis issues whatsoever, and this was very heartbreaking to me too, because I kept pushing on, Oh, tomorrow will be better. I so rarely ever take painkillers. I had gone through my painkillers that I did have with me. It wasn't getting better. However, I kept being like, oh, tomorrow somehow miraculously my feet, if I just raise them. Long story short, um, I had to push the SOS button on my InReach because I got to the point where I could only crawl. I could not walk any longer. And at that point, just the way things aligned, I was able to confer with a couple other people on the trail, and that it was the only option. That was two
Let me,
years ago. Had to push. Oh, yeah,
okay, let me interrupt you there because I
yeah.
think that the audience, just generally speaking, don't hit SOS button or have no experience with hitting an SOS button and have no idea what that even looks like if you do hit an
Well,
SOS button. Because I carry one of these little Garmin InReaches and it's got the
yeah, that's
cover and
exactly what it. Exactly, it's right
you
here.
got it with you.
I've got it here, right there. You got your Garmin
Yeah.
InReach. That,
So
yeah,
the time comes and you make the decision, I had to hit this SOS. Okay. I want you to take me
yes,
through the logistics of what happened. And here's specifically what I'm looking for. From the time you hit SOS for until the time that you get contact from someone somehow is how long? Let me ask you a few things and then you can run through them. Okay. And then
yep.
also what form that contact comes in, whether they call you, text you, message you through the Garmin, and then actual boots on the ground get there. Sometimes they have to wheel people out. Sometimes there's a helicopter rescue. Um, sometimes you're close enough that you can drive a four-wheeler in or something. So take
Mm-hmm.
me through the logistics of you hit the button and then you somehow end up, I would assume, either at a
Off
transportation
trail.
location or a hospital somewhere. So go ahead and hit it.
Okay, I will preface that by saying I had to hit the SOS button once before in the backcountry, not for myself, on behalf of an injured hiker that I'd come across.
Um,
And so I got to see how it all worked ahead of time, which was really exciting. I will add that he ended up being totally fine, so I'm able to have that layered appreciation, which was astounding and amazing, and to see it work. I was blown away by the speed. In that case, by the time I pushed the SOS on his behalf and then done the communication, which I'll elaborate with my story, 2 hours later, there was a helicopter picking that man up, which
Wow.
is phenomenal. Yeah. And in that case, that was, Jasper National Park, far backcountry at that point.
What's the year?
That would have, when did that happen? That would have probably been about four, probably 4 or 5 years ago that happened.
Okay.
With
So
that
the
individual.
technology hasn't changed too much since then. You hit the SOS button. It's kind of the same format or procedure whenever you're doing it
Yeah,
3 or 4 years later.
yeah, and it was again this time. So here I am crawling. I want to be the most helpful rescuee to be that I can. So I'm pulling out the maps. I'm trying to see from where I am if there just so happened to be an old spur trail that on the maps, which and there is a far out app as well for the GDT that indicated that it went to an old like logging road. I'm looking at this map. I'm figuring if I push the SOS here on the trail, I can convey to the rescuers to be that this can be a simple rescue by ATV because I am, you know, I'm I'm able to eat. I'm not bleeding. I'm warm. I've got my food. I just can't walk.
Right.
Okay, so this is good. So I push. It was right at around 1 o'clock. I reluctantly, but push that SOS. Like my dreams going up in smoke of doing the GDT. Instantly, what happens is so with your working with Bluetooth technology between your phone, you're able to text. It instantly sends on tracking, and you get a texted message from the headquarters of the Garmin rescue team, which I believe is in Kansas. That could be it's Kansas or Texas. I think Kansas. But what on their end, when the SOS button, they receive that, they immediately try to call you, um, and the SOS button is covered. It's not that you can accidentally hit it; you have to uncover it and depress it. But they immediately try to call you. I'm in a place where there's no reception. That is why I've had to push it. And they also immediately call your emergency contacts, who you may or may not be in communication with um, through your InReach device already. In my case, I was. So you're immediately texting back and forth with their headquarters, who assess the type of help you're needing. Essentially, it's like calling a 911 call.
Yeah, they're surveying you to assess the situation. Like,
yeah, they're surveying you back and forth. Yeah, what type of help do you need? Does the questions, and very specific to you. So from there, they switch the conversation over to a more localized response team. So in that case, I was in Alberta when I had to press that, and that went to an Alberta response team. And in my case, so there's a lot of repetition with, I'm, relaying as much information as I can about, hey, I'm just like, please, this doesn't have to be a big rescue, just send in an ATV. However, I kind of missed that there was a river, part way through the spur trail. But with the back and forth communication, in that case, I was in a screamer suit dangling beneath a helicopter in around 3 hours after having
Wow.
first pushed that. Now, yeah, so when I heard that helicopter, because I had been told that paramedics were on their way, and rescue teams were on their way. I was not expecting a helicopter until I heard it overhead. However, I think they dispatched, for me wanting this to be a very small scale, low key, low impact rescue, I think they sent out almost everybody except the Army. So we had the helicopter come down, pick me up, wrap me up in a screamer suit, which I was told is the name, which are essentially carabinered into this big sack with your rescuer who's come down on a long line. And that helicopter just lifted me for about the 1.5 miles, the 2-kilometer spur trail to the road, where there was an ambulance and search and rescue vehicles all waiting for me. So the helicopter had come in from Canmore, Alberta, and ambulances had been dispatched, and they had just spent 2 hours on the rockiest, bumpiest, backcountry, gravel, dirt, potholed roads, and there were 2 very car-sick paramedics who had themselves started hiking in, trying to get to me. They didn't know a helicopter apparently was coming back, and then when they came in, it all worked amazing. I spent the time in the back of the ambulance apologizing to them for this rough road that they had to take, and they were like, "No, it's great. We found all sorts of great fishing places we can come back to with a little gravel, So yeah, it was great. Yeah, I ended up at the hospital and unable to walk. It took me, and just some things just aligned. There was no availability in any of the small town little hotels or bed and breakfasts in the entire little town of Coleman where I was brought to, except all of a sudden there was one cancellation in the one accessible room. The people who own this bed and breakfast happened to have a walker that they were able to wheel me in. Yeah, I couldn't walk at all by this point, and it took me a couple months to be able to be retaught how to walk and able to walk again.
Wow.
Just a joke though, I'm the type of person who I try to finish what she starts, and so part of my recovery, I went to my parents' place. I'm a writer. I was trying to write the whole thing. It was great. I was able to start, part of the recovery process was biking on a stationary bike, working the tendons. It took me about 2 days of biking on this stationary bike where I went, well, I could sit inside and bike on this stationary bike, or I could get a mobile stationary bike, take it back to the Rockies, drive it back to the Rockies, try to intercept the divide where I can, and do my daily miles, my daily itinerary that I was planning on the GDT, and finish this hike by biking it. And
That's a bold strategy.
It was a bold strategy. I wrote this all up it's in the book Blood, Sweat, Tears that was curated by Rugged Outdoors woman Christine Reed, which is a fabulous book. I'm going to plug
We love
that.
Christine
But
Reed.
Christine's fabulous. So her book, that story of improvising and biking the hike. So that first year, got plucked off, screamer suit, helicopter, wrote all about it, and then went and biked the hike. And so I lugged this mobile. Obviously, I wasn't able to get back onto the trail, but what ironically became like this, started as this very solo, remote hike, became a piece of public performance art. I do have a PhD in performance art. I was dragging this, from just the parking lot parking in the disabled parking spot down to the shores of a sunny Lake Louise on a busy Saturday with every tour bus you can imagine. There's Browyn pedaling on the shores, her daily planned mileage for that day until and yeah, so intercepting I started to have fun, right? Because rehab can be incredibly lonely and isolating itself, and not to say that whole process wasn't just that, but it was also, how can I make my art and work for me and have fun, but at the same time it was just me just trying to desperately cling on to this dream that I'd had, because of the but before all of this and what was leading up to wanting to do the Great Divide is I had spent a couple years with an incredibly crooked leg. You had mentioned I've had a knee replacement. Yes, I have. I'm now 3.5 years since I got that. But just over 5 years ago, I absolutely shattered my lower leg in of all things, and you're allowed to laugh, a stand-up paddleboarding accident. But I was in, yeah, exactly. Yeah, who is able to do that with stand-up paddleboarding? Only me. But yeah, it was fast-flowing water at spring runoff with the glaciers. You mentioned I do have a rare genetic disease where I have slightly lesser bone density, which is kind of why I break a little easily. But there we are, stand-up paddleboarding. I got turned around in an eddy, stood on a rock. I should have just immediately been swimming, but instead, the combo of slightly lesser bone density, the current, lower leg blew into over 20 pieces. They stopped counting, and I was immediately swimming. Doctors were able to piece it all back together with a bunch of metal, but the bones set in such a way that they healed where my knee healed incredibly acutely. So I had a very crooked leg, and went back to the doctors, and they said, well, there's nothing we can do for you. You'll be a candidate for a knee replacement in about 20 years. Just keep living your life doing what you do. My physiotherapist, or physical therapists in the States, threw up her hands, said, I can't believe when they say that to people who live in this neck of the woods that that are really, really athletic. Because me keep living my life and keep doing what I do meant I kept throwing on a backpack and hauling myself out into the backcountry incredibly slowly, like 1 mile an hour, incredibly painfully. It inspired a lot of writing on the trail, but when the doctors found that out and I was starting to grind, metal, bone to metal, and they were like, wait a second, we don't understand how you're able to walk in the first place right now. How are you able to do 7 miles with a backpack on? The metal got all taken out. That was surgery number 2. So the initial accident happened about 5.5 years ago. Full knee replacement, and now straight legs about 3.5 years ago. And 2 years ago, I was setting on the GDT with 2 straight legs, been doing all the training. I was ready to go, nothing, and then have to push that SOS because of tendonitis of all things. Heartbreaking. Okay,
Yeah.
so
happens. Can I jump in here real quick? We got a few comments. I want to make sure we get up here real quick before we get too far. Maddie Outdoors, you asked earlier if you answered his question well. You can't read that, so I'm just going to read it. He said, can definitely appreciate that. You 100% answered it. I searched for the remote as well, which is why which is why he asked. David Cooper said, do more people hike north to south or south to north on the GDT?
South to north.
South to north.
Yeah.
And then David Cooper also said the SOS procedure firsthand story is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
All I can do is I can sing Garmin's praises. I'm in no way affiliated with them in any way, but I've been blown away now on 2 occasions from and just the succinctness and it's inspiring. But it can get in the way of that. Could be weather, could be if you're in a small tight valley or whatever. Anybody who has tried to send backcountry messages knows that there can sometimes be a delay. I've been so fortunate. Both stories worked out phenomenally. I also do use this as my little creative tool in the backcountry. That's another story we'll get to, where I send creative backcountry poetic snippets. But,
that's awesome.
Well,
there's one more thing.
And yeah, once talking to somebody from Garmin, they're like, "We've never heard of the InReach being used as a creative tool." I was like, "Oh, yeah, met me." There we go.
So Jeremiah,
so, keep going with the comments.
there's an important comment right here, Jeremiah, and it's specifically to you. It says, Jeremiah, don't forget to ask the, all in capitals, question.
I have one. Well, I actually have 2 quick questions I want to ask before asking the question. I'm excited. First,
okay.
Hopefully this isn't intrusive, but was there an out-of-pocket cost for the Garmin? And do you have to have like an insurance or something if you don't want an out-of-pocket?
So there.
How much they?
Let me think. What is? So so the InReach itself is they're cheaper now than when I've had mine for years, and there's now there's the out-of-pocket expense of buying this. Best investment ever. Several $100s. They come on sale, so that's personal expense. For pushing the SOS button, so I don't know if this is going to be different in the United States versus Canada, where our healthcare systems are different. But the only expense that I incurred was a small expense for the ambulance transportation, which was was very minimal. I mean, like $100 kind of around.
Okay.
There is a monthly plan that you have to pay with an InReach, and they have various plans. When I am on the trail and in the summer times, I have their unlimited texting plan, but that is more because of my poetic dispatches I send out. Sure. The SOS, if you have a basic plan, my understanding is pushing the SOS button and any communication that comes from that, you're not being dinged. Your whatever the specific plan related ding would be for a text message.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Okay.
But again, I don't have the specific answers if it would be different in the United States, but
sure. I wanted to know your experience if they had charged you. But now I'm going to ask you the question.
I do know that helicopter. The helicopter I did not have to pay for. There's something, but yeah, just a little bit of 2 hours of, and I was more than willing to help. Contribute to the gravel and road sickness consolation of those poor paramedics in your tree. Okay, what's the question? I'm scared.
The question is, as we're nearing the end of the show here, we'd like to wrap with if there is any times where you've ran into any interesting situation involving poop in the backcountry. It can be something that happened to you or a friend, or, well, we've heard some horror stories, and I'll tell you over the weekend, by the way, at this YouTuber meetup, I'll give you a 30-second funny. there was some college age kids that come into the meetup, and you have, 24 people there sitting around this campsite. And the kid walks in and he says, "Hey, do y'all have any extra trash bags?" And we're 2 miles into the woods. So I was like, what a random thing to ask for. And I was like, well, I have a gallon Ziploc bag. And he's like, no, that won't be big enough. And so then I started asking follow-up questions because he said the gallon Ziploc wasn't big enough. So I was like, what is he putting in this trash bag? And it turns out that my wife and I passed up this tenting spot on night one because there was toilet paper kind of strolled around that general area. Well, them college kids didn't pass it up. So this kid either sat in or put his hand in human poop and got it all over his clothes. And he said every time he changed clothes, he wanted the bag to back up his poopy clothes. I was like, you should probably just burn those, bro. But I get it, being a broke college kid. You got a Nike hoodie that's worth $200. You don't want to burn it. So he said,
especially now you have a Nike hoodie with a story,
yeah, then you got to keep it. And he said, yeah, every time, even in my fresh clothes after changing, there was more poop. Every time I gone to do something, there's more poop. I was getting on this, getting on that. So he's like, I need to bag up all these clothes. And it turned out that we had the hefty wag bag. That's funny, Shade. That's a good comment. So that's my little funny poop story. Do you have anything, relatable?
Well, of course, I don't think it's well, not that good. I don't have that good. I I coin it backcountry butt. And the thing is, I am a writer. I am the backcountry poet, and I think part of the writing and being real about writing about backcountry experiences, you can wax poetic about the mountains and the beautiful view, and then you're like, and then I just crapped myself. It happens. And that features into my writing. We don't dwell on it excessively, but I think part of it, absolutely, it seems to be, and it always happens at the worst time. But you're digesting your food differently. You're eating different food out there. It's bound to happen, and um, and it has happened. I remember at one point I had the unfortunate experience. I was trying to take some new supplements, which I had not realized had a rather laxative effect, which it's unfortunate to discover this when you're in the backcountry. Okay, so I've cleaned up. I've got stuff to change into, but I'm triple bagging um, my shorts, and I'm like, okay, I can. I'll have the opportunity to wash these when I get off trail in like a day. Thankfully, that was well timed. But in the meantime, I was like, okay, but what do I do with these? Like, how do I deal with my trim? I don't think they smell, but I was in a space where there were like metal caches for food lockers, and I remember kind of for bear safety, and I remember going through the thinking of being like, could you put that in there? It's a personal cache for the day. It's clearly yours. And just being like, no, you can't. No. And this was a fairly busy, going to be busier. I remember strapping this bag to the outside of my backpack, and any super just hyper conscious because I didn't want to leave it in the bear bins. And then I was worried, was this a bear attractant? I'm like, no, this is probably the best bear repellent you've got going, And but I remember the few people I passed on the trail, I kind of did like an awkward like side dance around a little bit, but I so actually I think um my hardest uh situation was, it wasn't involving poop. It involved, I sat down to write poetry. I'd been sitting on this branch of a tree, or a big exposed root of a tree, without realizing it was covered in pitch and sap. And when I
Oh,
went when I tried to sit up, I couldn't. And black pitch had covered my entire rear end and had stuck my butt cheeks together. So I'm in the process. I'm now trying to. It had gone straight through my leggings. I am now creating myself a diaper out of a bag because I don't want to. I can't. Like they're stuck to me. Create a diaper. I made my way out of the backcountry into my vehicle with like laying garbage bags and had to go straight to a clothing store to buy new clothes because they completely destroyed my clothes. And I just remember being in the clothing store and the woman and me grabbing a pair of pants and the woman saying, you can have a change room, you can try them on if you'd like. And I looked at her, I said, no, I'm sorry, no, actually I can't. And for whatever reason, I proceeded to tell her that, my butt cheeks were stuck together with sap. And I went and bought oil. It took me 3 hours to get the black sap off my. Yeah, it happens. It's part of it. It's part of the experience. Nothing ever goes straight to plan, right?
I agree.
So,
well,
yeah.
thank you for sharing the poop story and the sap story. New trail name Pod Tar. That's funny.
No.
That's funny. Officially, the Poetic Hiker. You can find her on Instagram at Poetic Hiker. And I have, this may be your second work, or I might have misread this, but Hiking Beyond comes out in March of 2026. So that's just around the corner. Hopefully you're putting on the finishing touches. Is there any other places that we should check out online or in person to learn more about you or to check out your work or help to support what you got going on?
Well, you can Google me and all my books are available. I am a children's book writer as well. And so I'm a place-based writer. I also write for adults. I have a book of poetry out called Knee Deep in High Water, which basically chronicles a 2-week horse expedition in the far northern Rockies, where the joke had been that's me with my crooked leg. Well, if I can't straighten my crooked leg, if doctors can't, if physical therapists can't, well, then 2 weeks on a horse is going to straighten that leg. And that was the premise. And no, but I would love the support. Yeah, you can pre-order Hiking Beyond, which chronicles me trying to get back on the trail as a solo hiker with a crooked leg, and subsequent to the various surgeries, and we didn't even get. Yeah, my hip crumbled on me in the backcountry last year on the GDT. That would just back to the GDT very quickly. Yeah, got back on the trail second year around. Then the wildfires hit, which destroyed Jasper and everything, and that cut the GDT in half. Absolutely devastating. Me now, the second year back on the trail, going, oh my goodness, now the trail has, been taken away from me, not because of my own physical situation, but because of this absolute devastation. So sad. But I did the math. I had to kind of come to terms with it. And I realized where we could pass no further beyond because of the wildfires was actually the dividing point of the Great Divide. So even though I'd hiked that section before, I decided I was going to hike to that point. And with my body, with my lesser bone density, maybe it was just a little too much because my hip disintegrated on me in the backcountry over the process of a couple of days, and I hiked myself out with a broken hip.
Oh my! So it wasn't a traumatic event; it was the repetitive.
I didn't. And that's as best we can follow. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like a stress fracture, but it's also your bones. It's hard to classify. But I'm hard to classify. And I guess that's what fuels my writing, right? So,
yeah.
But
well,
yeah.
I really appreciate you joining us today. Lovely speaking with
you.
Very interesting person, and I'd love for everybody to go out, support Browyn, you said give you a Goog. Also check out the Instagram Poetic Hiker. There's some different stuff linked on there. Like
Yeah.
at
And
Caitlin
I'm on
Press.
Amazon. I'm on Amazon and all the places. Yeah.
So
But yeah,
easy to find. Just need to look up
easy.
Bronwyn Preece.
Yeah. There you go. That's right.
All right. Well, if you'll hang out for just a second, I'm going to close out the show here in
I
a
will.
minute, and we'll put
I'm
you
not
in the
going
group.
anywhere.
All right.
That's great.
Fantastic. John, get ready to cue the music because I'm going to wrap up the show here in just a second. I just wanted to say next week on Wednesday, same time, 4:30 Eastern, we have Luke Persall. Hopefully I'm saying his name right, but he'll correct me if he needs to. He's an adventure travel creative. He's also an outdoor gear tester / consultant, and he's the founder of Trail Goods company, which is a freeze-dried food company that I have I think it's the spicy creamy chicken. I haven't tried it yet, but I ordered it months ago. I try to save those dehydrated meals for like long adventures where I don't want to carry a lot of weight. So I'm excited to talk to Luke, and make sure you tune in next week to see JK, Mr. John Kelly, on the show with me. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's show. If you have, give us a like, give us a subscribe if you're on YouTube. Check us out on Spotify or YouTube if you want to see the video version. And that about wraps it up. We'll see everybody next week. Adios, folks.